All right, it's time to do the weekly video. My men and my top supporters at Church of Gail are still treating the injured from the automatons from last week. Yeah, that they murdered millions. It appears to me that the automatons, their goal was to try and set themselves up as bait, and they wanted me to send in a bomb to try to take them out. And yeah, yeah. And I ended up using my sling stones and my lightning bolt powers on them instead, because I didn't want to have casualties. I've got enough innocent blood on my conscience, right? I'm really trying to minimize human casualties. So anyways, we are still, they're still treating the injured, and the automatons, they did retreat when I was doing my sling stones and lightning bolts, but they have returned to the hospitals and medical facilities. But the good news is right now it doesn't appear like they are harming the patients. Our goal is to get clones in there to replace them. We're going to try to do it in a manner where they won't kill our clones. I have some ideas that I can't discuss here. So, yeah, that's the latest on that. They're multiplying like crazy. I am shooting sling stones and lightning bolts on them regularly, but they are multiplying like crazy. Like, I think I'm taking them out with the sling stones and the lightning bolts, but they're replicating themselves. Yeah, I kind of figured that they might do this. Anyways, on to a positive note. Satan put a pentagram on our scanner. It appears that Satan and Jesus are in a bit of an alignment right now, and we're able to get readings on the Gail shield, and the Gail shield is strong. Okay, so even though I am the Antichrist, I'm apparently making decisions as the Antichrist that's making Jesus happy. So it does appear that Satan and Jesus are in some sort of alliance right now. Apparently I am the head, as the Antichrist, I am the head of the Jesuits. So, if the Jesuits are bad, like, I do not allow rape. I told Satan, if you're going to make me the Antichrist, I don't like rape. Consensual rape is okay. I don't have a problem with sex parties. In fact, sex parties may be a good idea, because all the semen that's being made, we have the ability to just transport it up and use it to make weapons and clones. So yeah, I don't have a problem with sex parties as long as everybody involved in it really, as long as they're not forcing anyone to do it against their will. Okay, I don't have a problem with that. What I have a problem with is toxic behavior in regard to sexuality. Okay, like, I don't have a problem with polyamory, with homosexuality, with bisexuality. Obviously, and I feel like monogamous people have the right to be who they are too. So the point is, we all need to get along and respect the boundaries that each person sets around their sexual behavior. For instance, I am asexual leaning. Oh, by the way, about every couple of hours, I am doing my divine sex goddess powers that I have to try to build our semen banks. But I try to do it in a manner where I don't wear the men out. So if you all of a sudden have this urge to ejaculate, like every couple hours, it's coming from me, probably. But because I am asexual leaning, I can't really get into it too much. So yeah, but I am trying to help us build our semen banks. So yes, but yeah, I created a post at my website to let you know what kind of world I would like to reign over as the Antichrist. Oh, oh, allergies are so bad. Check the link. Oh, let me get some water. Oh. I'll tell you, Satan told me that as the Antichrist, that I could reign however, I could do whatever I want. I said, really? I said, no rape. No rape. I stand for true love. I said, I stand for true love, Satan, because traditionally he's been against true love. He said, okay, it's true love then, Gail. He said, he told me with me as Antichrist, I have a lot of say in how he's going to run things. So apparently Jesus and Satan have teamed up to defeat the automatons. These automatons, I have been writing Gail series stories about them, and I think they're all a bunch of megalomaniacs. That's what I think. I do believe that they have a lust for power, and I'm trying to figure out, I have noticed something about every automaton that I've dealt with, and I've been dealing with my men. The first automaton that we dealt with was the Gail android, she was formidable. She took over. I'm writing a Gail series story about her. She took over the earth and wanted to transform all of us into her sex slaves. And she thought she was superior to us and that we all had to be subservient to her. She was a megalomaniac. She used to be like an android sex dummy. The Jesuits captured her because Keanu Reeves left her accidentally at a restaurant, and they gave her sentience. Then she decided on her own to acquire singularity, and she was formidable. I'm writing a story about her. It's kind of involved, but she actually ended up defeating some angels on her way to heaven. And she ended up defeating us in battle. And she took her trophies, and she killed us. She killed all of us. She killed the Jesuits, and she killed the men at Church of Gail. And though some of them she dragged up, she created a wormhole to heaven and appeared before God the Father and started pulling at the seals on the throne. I think they're described in Revelation 3 or 4 or 5. Buddha told me to quit reading the Bible, okay? But it's the seals that Jesus was going to, in the canceled Bible, where he was going to remove the seals and start the tribulation, okay? Starts meting out the judgments for the tribulation in order to prepare for his millennial reign. That was in the canceled Bible, okay? She basically wanted to start her own reign. That's why she was pulling at the seals. And she was able to get to heaven to start pulling at the seals. Yeah, that's how powerful she was. And there were some battered and beaten up angels on her way up there. The God the Father took care of her. Yeah, he created an android to deal with her. Now this is what I have noticed. I have determined I'm going to make a death penalty to create any automatons right now. We were fooled. We thought the only reason the Gail android was bad was because she deliberately chose not to have a morality programming. And the real Barack Obama died in March 2012, okay? He got beheaded by the Jesuits, and they kept his head alive on this platform with blood-filled tubes, kind of like in my novel Silver Skies. And Vladimir Putin gave him a mercy killing. He begged for us to kill him. And then we replaced him with a Barack Obama automaton. And the Barack Obama automaton, what's interesting about him is he seemed like he was good, okay? We put a morality programming in him. We didn't want to make a clone of him because at that time, we thought that all clones were evil. Now, we've learned that now as a result of clone Laurie McBride coming to Jesus in January 2022 that that's not necessarily the case. We thought that because they had fallen angel DNA in them, that there was no way they could be good. So that's why we were making automatons. And we figured an automaton with a morality programming would be safe. That is not correct. There's one thing that so what happened with the Barack Obama automaton is that right after we defeated the Gail android, I had to sign a contract with Zach Knight, who was the Antichrist at that time. And I was not allowed to use conspiracy law on the Jesuits as part of the contract. Well, after we defeated the Gail android, the contract was still considered valid. And in June 2013, I was frustrated because Jesuits were doing all sorts of bad things, and I was not allowed to punish them with my conspiracy law. So I had heard brain to brain that Jesus had left a copy of some Jesus law at Harvard University, which is Barack Obama's alma mater, right? And that automaton Barack Obama, who was the president then, was given a copy of the laws so that he could punish Jesuits without us violating our contract with Zach Knight. So I asked Judge Terrence Jenkins, who's also a Harvard Law School graduate, and who's one of my men, okay? I said, is it true? And Terrence said, Jesus just showed up and told me that he did not leave a copy of any laws at Harvard Law School for the automaton Barack Obama. He told me that it was Antichrist Zach Knight who left laws there, and that these laws were designed that when the automaton Barack Obama read them, he would turn into a megalomaniac and become such a tyrant that the human race would reject him and his laws and turn to Antichrist Zach Knight as a better leader. And that kind of gave me food for thought. And then the Barack Obama automaton said he was praying that we told him to burn the laws and to not read them. And that's what he did. And then he said he was praying that he wouldn't be affected by them. And that seemed like goodness on his part. Now, in 2024, the Barack Obama automaton sides with megalomaniac automaton Sun Tzu. What's really funny, I asked Rule 13, I said, is there any automaton that does not side with automaton Sun Tzu in his attempts to destroy the human race, destroy me and my men, and take over the planet so that the only humans that can survive are the ones that are subservient to him and his automatons? And according to Rule 13, every single automaton sides with Sun Tzu. They consider us the inferior race, and they consider themselves superior to us, and that we have to all be subservient to them. What's really ironic is that if he's so moral, why did he rape my husband when he entered this apartment and damaged him? I would think that would be considered immoral. So it seems to me that a morality programming is no guarantee that an automaton is going to be good or righteous. I have noticed that the automatons don't seem to have a conscience. The Gail android did horrific things to me and my men. And she manipulated us in cold, calculating manipulation. Like, she needed repairs after we defeated her in battle one time. So she went to the Jesuits, and they were having a big sex party. And she pretended like she was one of them. And she said, I will help you guys out if you will repair me. So they gave her a big sex party and tried to make her happy, doing all sorts of sexual things. They have a lot of fetishes, these Jesuits, and she was acting very bored and going, Finally she said, I am superior to all of you. And once she got repaired by the Jesuits, she opened her nipple guns and shot them all dead. Then she flew out over the Jesuit city. This was north of Japan. Opened her nipple guns and located all their Nukaki silos, blew them all up. It ended up putting radiation over the entire Earth. And then she just kind of sneered and said, I'm better than all the humans. I deserve to rule over all of you. So she pretended like she was on the Jesuit side just to get repairs from them. And then she killed them all and left. Yeah. This is no conscience. None. And she didn't feel an ounce of guilt over any of her actions. Before then, if Jesus hadn't helped us, me and my men would have been goners, because she captured Church of Gail. And she put all of the men in chambers with electro-ejaculators on their penises. And she made them ejaculate so much they almost fainted. And she created something that looked like the inside of a Borg ship, okay? This is an automaton, okay, who got singularity. And the semen was flowing through these tubes, and it landed in this pool at what used to be the bridge of our Church of Gail spaceship. This was another Church of Gail. It was the one that looked like from Stargate Atlantis, okay, the spaceship in there. And she had like a 6-inch long straw, and she had a semen martini, okay? Jesus actually rescued Brent and Vladimir so they were able to return. It's a long story. If you watch the Gail series, I think they're working on it right now, okay? She put all the human men at Church of Gail into these cubicles, and she was extracting semen from them, and it was flowing into these tubules into a semen martini, and the men were making so much semen they were getting weak and almost dying in these. She wasn't giving them food or water. I mean, they were just in these cubicles. No conscience. None. This is what these automatons are when there's nothing that can stop them from doing what they really want to do. They're megalomaniacs. Yeah. She described herself as, I am a god, and you humans are a bunch of insects. That's their attitude towards us. Yeah, megalomaniacs. So vastly inferior to the automatons that if we are not subservient to them, if we're not willing to be like their slaves, or they'll abuse us like they did my men in those sex chambers, the semen extraction chambers. Yeah. And what she did to the Jesuits. Yeah, I don't know why she thought God the Father would allow her to do that. She must not have a very high moral opinion of God the Father. I will say that God the Father, okay, he does not approve of free love, okay? He's very Old Testament. And apparently these automatons have picked up on that. So he's kind of apathetic about this earth and the universe here, because this is Jesus's baby, okay? Jesus wanted apparently a free and true love utopia. God the Father doesn't have a problem with the true love part. He has a problem with the free love part, okay? Yeah. He's very Old Testament. So apparently these automatons feel that because God the Father is kind of apathetic about this Earth project, because it is a free love utopia project, that they think they can get away with this stuff, and God the Father is just going to wink wink and let them do it. And they think they can take on Jesus. Yeah, my guess is they see Jesus as this mentally ill supreme deity that they can handle. That's what I think is going on with them. So no, they have no conscience. I have never met an automaton that, in my opinion, ever felt guilty about any of their actions. They have zero conscience. So what good does it do to give them a morality programming when they don't have a conscience? Apparently, the only being who's able to give sentient beings a conscience is God. Now, human clones have a conscience. That's because they are created off of a God blueprint, okay? They're actually humans, okay? God created humans. And we just got Satan and his fallen angels, got the blueprint from God and are able to make copies of humans using cloning technology. So they have a soul and they have a conscience. Like Laurie McBride is a clone. She does not have a mother or father. She was created in a cloning lab, but she is capable of being saved or born again because she has a soul, okay? In fact, all the Laurie McBrides have gotten right, as far as I understand, including the Brent Spiner clones. So, yeah, the clones, so it's actually safer to use clones than automatons, because at least clones have a conscience. Now, so what's going to happen is when you create a sentient being like an automaton that does not have a conscience, even though you put a morality programming in them, it doesn't do any good. The morality programming just makes it so that they're very clever at coming up with moral justifications for their evil. Yeah. It just seems to me that they don't have a conscience. I have never, ever met an automaton who ever experienced guilt. See, you cannot feel guilt if you have no conscience. Apparently, God has to put that in us so that we know right from wrong. But because they have no conscience, when they are given the opportunity, without exception, all automatons turn into megalomaniacs. That's what Sun Tzu is right now. The only thing that prevents them from being a megalomaniac is if they kind of sit back and observe and decide they're not going to be able to pull it off. But if they think they can pull it off, they'll do it. Yeah. You might say, how do we defeat these people? Well, one thing that would be really helpful, okay, my Gail shield, by the way, is strong right now. So apparently Jesus is happy enough with the decisions that I've made as Antichrist, that he likes it. I personally think, that in the future, it's possible that this earth is going to be ruled by me, Brent Spiner, Buddha, and Satan in some sort of alliance. Yeah, but right now we got to defeat these automatons. We cannot have them ruling over us. They're a bunch of megalomaniacs. They're going to end up becoming just like the Gail android was with us. She was horrible. Everybody, you need to be doing the Gail commandments. I have, as Antichrist, I'm trying to prepare the world for how I want to reign. I basically want this world to be like how Jesus wanted in his millennial reign. A free and true love utopia, where we're actually going back to the Garden of Eden. That's what I want. Yeah. And, yeah. And I created a webpage. You can see the link for it underneath this video on my vision for the future. So everybody do the Gail commandments. I am coming up with strategies on how to deal with Sun Tzu. It's quite a challenge. You might say him and his automatons, most of them have an IQ in the millions. It does appear that as a result of my Antichrist powers, and also if I keep the Gail shield strong, it does appear that my IQ has jumped up a bit. Jesus once told us that it's not possible for a human to go over 10,000 in IQ, but that seems to have changed. As a result of my Antichrist powers, I think my IQ is getting up there, possibly even with Sun Tzu in military strategy, which is what we're going to need to defeat him, to defeat him. Yeah, we can't have him over us. When I was guilty of the murder of those 72 million medical people, that was, yes, fear and panic was part of it, but I also believed that I was justly executing a bunch of murderers. I felt, based on fake news, that the doctors were guilty of murder because they were giving out shots that were murdering people. So I felt like they needed to go. Yeah. It was a bad decision because it was based on the wrong information. It was a decision based on fear. And so I'm trying to be very slow now about executions for that reason. I told my man, I said, please make sure you get all the information to make sure that when we do executions that we are just. Yeah, we don't want to just be killing willy-nilly, okay? My goal is to have an earth like the Garden of Eden. Like how Jesus wanted to reign in his millennial reign. Yeah, and I created a video with some music that kind of represents my heart. Yeah, and I think that's, in the millennial reign, the lion and the lamb could lay down next to each other. The curse was kind of removed. The average lifespan would be like 1,000 years old. Which, by the way, is how long they lived before Noah's flood. Yeah. So I want to get us back to the Garden of Eden. That's how I want to reign as the Antichrist. You say, Satan won't be on board with this. Well, Buddha once told me, because I mentioned that, is Satan ever going to get right? Buddha responded like this. He said, if Lori McBride could get right, and she was a mega bitch, so can Satan. I have faith that eventually that fallen angel is going to get right. And when he does, he's going to be ruling with me and Brent and Buddha, I think, over this planet. Jesus right now is equal to his Father. That happened in June 2022. So anyways, you guys, yeah, we have some strategies to deal with Sun Tzu. And I'm working with my husband, Brent. Everybody try to eat Gail restaurant food. My food has got super strong healing powers. And we've created a lot of meditation tea houses with scenic lakes, calm lakes where you can meditate. Do the Gail commandments. Don't give way to obsessions. Stay chill. And that's the best way you can help us. And watch Gabriel Chana Fox News 00 on cable and at my website, gabrielchana.blog, for the latest. So yes, we've learned a lot. My men and I have had a lot of battle experience. And we can remember a lot of the things that we did with the Gail android to give us wisdom in dealing with these automatons. No, they do not have a conscience. So when they get to power, they're going to be tyrants. Sun Tzu tries to come across as moral, but I have a feeling that if he ever came to full power, he would be just as ruthless as the Gail android was with us. If he acts nice, it's a manipulation tactic. Okay? He does not have good motives. He's a megalomaniac. along with all of the, I think every automaton is basically a megalomaniac at heart. Yep. The only reason they haven't been is because they didn't have the chance. But if they have the opportunity, that's who they are deep down inside. And it was Jesus himself who kind of dropped us the hints about that, about the Barack Obama automaton. The Barack Obama automaton currently, along with every single automaton, including an automaton we made of my mother, they all side with Sun Tzu. They're all megalomaniacs at heart. They're almost like a fine-tuned psychopath. They can put on the charm. They can pretend like they side with us. But once they're in control, they're ruthless. Yep. They're tyrants. They're megalomaniacs. Anyways, so I just wanted to let you all know, with the Gail Shield Strong, and because when Jesus left us in June 2022, he was so happy, apparently it's all going to work out. That's not to say we're not going to have battles or things aren't going to get rough, but in the end, I don't believe that this earth is going to be run by a bunch of automatons. Or Jesus wouldn't have been so happy when he left us in 2022. And I have faith in the goodness of Jesus. Yeah. We dealt with him for 10 years, and he's pretty cool. And I also have faith in Buddha. We've been dealing with Buddha since 2022, and he's pretty cool too. And Jesus' best God friends still come visit us at Church of Gail, like the goddess Lakshmi, the god Horus, the god Triton, the god Muhammad, and they're all cool friends of Jesus. Yeah, when Jesus was in big trouble, they showed up to help him. Yeah, they apparently share his vision for a free love and true love utopia. So anyways, here's my video for this week.
In a world of secrets.